All right, we are. So, for this podcast assignment, we're just going to be talking about the dystopias in the movie I, Robot with Will Smith. Um, I'm Chris. This is one of my best friends, Dylan Fields. How are you,
Hey,
Dylan?
nice to meet you.
Um, so, just getting right into it, I guess we'll start with what is I, Robot about. I copy pasted the um, description from Google, but just to recap it a little bit, takes place in 2035. Highly intelligent robots fill basically any position throughout the world, operating under three rules to keep humans safe, which I'll kind of dive into in the next few slides. Um, Will Smith's character, Detective Spooner, doesn't really have the best relationship with robots, and he's called to investigate the alleged suicide of U.S. robotics founder Alfred Lanning, Dr. Lanning, and believes that a human-like robot murdered him. So, with the help of an expert, her name's Susan in the movie, which we'll be referring to, Spooner discovers a conspiracy that might enslave the human race. So, what does iRobot have to do with the project? Why is it a representation of a dystopian society? This film portrays many of the 9 characteristics of dystopian societies that we talked about in class and that was given to us in the instructions, but we're going to expand on 3 of them specifically. The first one being information, independent thought, and freedom are restricted. Citizens are perceived to be under constant surveillance, and the natural world is banished and distrusted. Here's the trailer. I'm not going to play it. I don't know if I'll get copyrighted when I put this on YouTube, so I'm not going to do that. To start by going over the 3 laws of robotics, if you didn't know, this movie was actually based on a book written by Isaac Asimov in 1950 called I, Robot, same name.
I actually didn't know that. I didn't know that myself.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I actually did a project for a different class on the book, so I did the other. Pretty cool. So when you watch the movie, you actually see, instead of opening credits and stuff, the opening credits are the 3 laws of robotics from that book, which is pretty cool. So the first law: a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human to come to harm. Second law: a robot must obey orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. And the third law: a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So second and third laws pretty much revolve around the first one: don't harm or let a human come to harm. So the first characteristic of a dystopian society that we're going to talk about is information, independent thought, and freedom are restricted. So just to start off, basically goes in order from the timeline of the movie. The first example that I have is that Detective Spooner is, for at least the good part of the film, the only person to think freely about the situation involving Dr. Lanning and Sonny. The captain of the Chicago Police Precinct, John, who Detective Spooner works for, restricts Spooner's free thinking and claims he's crazy multiple times to think a robot could steal a purse, like the beginning of the movie, basically the first scene, even though it was just bringing an inhaler to someone who was having an asthma attack.
Yeah.
And 2, to possibly kill someone by bringing a human to harm. So obviously you can see independent thought is restricted. The police captain doesn't really let Spooner think.
Yeah. No, not even just him. Also, Susan, the doctor. She, anytime that Spooner would like bring it up to her, like for instance, the time when he was in Dr. Lanning's house, looking for clues as to like how he was killed. He comes back to her because a demolition robot tore down the entire house while he was in it.
Right.
And he's like, how could you not believe what I'm telling you? Like, and he comes home with a cat and she's like, did the cat do that to you? He's like, no, how did a cat do that to me? It was a demolition robot. But yeah, so it's just pretty much everyone's kind of they do have freedom to think, but they all have the same kind of idea about the robots. Right. So it kind of skewers that that
Right.
freedom a little bit.
That idea or thought about robots is they're bound by the 3 laws. It can't be possible that they'd harm a human. Blah blah
Exactly.
blah. So there's an example. Another one. Everyone is brainwashed into thinking the robots are all perfect and nothing could go wrong, which kind of goes along with what we were just talking about.
Hmm.
For example, Spooner's grandmother Gigi swears by them. She's been waiting to get a robot forever, and she's been trying to win the lottery for at least the first couple scenes of the movie to get her own new mom.
Yeah.
Um,
And also, like, spinning off of that, I just thought of this actually. To avoid any spoilers, I guess. When she does get that robot, she wins the lottery and she gets that robot. Spooner's telling her, you got to get rid of that. It's not safe. And she tells him basically to forget the past because he does have his own reasons for not, for disliking the robots.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to put that in there too.
Definitely. So this, I also thought about this from the robot's perspective. This characteristic that information, independent thought, and freedom are restricted can also apply to the robots. They're restricted to the 3 laws of robotics, which ends up leading to, well, we all know what happens. And the difference between Sonny and the rest of the robots is that his independent thought and freedom isn't as restricted, and that's because Dr. Lanning allowed that for him.
Mm-hmm. It's actually not restricted at all.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's what makes him, he actually has the, not even just independent thought, but like he also has freedom of expression and his,
emotion.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's weird. It's so weird to think about.
That's so weird to think about, dude.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of apply it to them as well, just because, I mean, in the end of the movie, they end up restricting us. We restrict them from the time we create them. Mm-hmm. So another example, towards the end of the movie, when the news finally catches wind of what's happening, the revolution, the news feed is actually terminated. We see on this like big Times Square looking video monitor in downtown Chicago, all the citizens in the streets are watching it, and the newscasters talking about, shelter in place, stay home, it's dangerous, and the news feed cuts out.
It's not even just the news though, because if I remember correctly, they shut down all the power throughout the city, so probably people couldn't even communicate with each other.
Exactly. So that's an example how information is restricted, but also freedom, freedom to communicate with each other. Yeah. So that's pretty. Oh, there's one more thing. Vicky, the brains of it all. When she's talking to Susan and Spooner, says, this is also towards the end of the movie, says some freedoms need to be sacrificed for the betterment of the world,
for the overall good of mankind, basically. Exactly. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So she's literally saying their freedoms are restricted. Some need to be sacrificed. So I feel like perfect. So anything else to add on to the first characteristic?
No, I feel like we hit that pretty good.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I do too. All right. The next one is citizens are perceived to be under constant surveillance. The first thing that we talked about when reviewing were that the robots are plugged in and programmed with new DLC weekly downloadable content, and just from my intuition tells me that they're monitoring everybody, whether it's for good or bad, or even if anybody knows, they're recording audio and video and sending it back to the headquarters, regardless of Robertson, the CEO, I guess, had an idea of what's going on. But even nowadays, our audio, you say something or search something on your phone, 2 minutes later you get an ad for it. Kind of like that. They're recording stuff without our knowledge. Things like that.
It's not even, but I feel like it's, Robertson kind of, I don't think he really,
I think he had any idea.
I don't think he did, because he just trusted Vicky. He trusted Vicky.
He didn't have bad intentions. He was just so one-sided with it all that.
Exactly. Going back to the freedom of thought, like he he was so entrusting of those 3 laws that he couldn't
Exactly.
see that being a bad thing.
Mhm.
I was also going to say that, going back, bringing up Vicky, actually, when Spooner, he asked for some file. I don't remember what files he was asking for specifically, but he's driving his car, and it's when Robertson actually found out from Vicky that he was like looking through like encrypted files.
Mhm.
And so Vicky was monitoring Spooner's activities, relayed them to Robertson,
Right.
and then Robertson had all those other NS5s pretty much go out and try to kill Spooner.
Right.
So it's just crazy. Like, just that Vicky has all of this knowledge is just,
And power.
like, could you imagine something like that actually like existing?
Right. Have you seen Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf?
No, I haven't seen Eagle Eye.
Okay. There's a similar situation in that movie, which we probably could have used for this project as well.
Mhm.
I forget the name of the big brain of everything, but it's just like Vicky in this movie where she can control technologies and information and stuff like that. And she's calling people on phones and changing street lights and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
basically the same, it's crazy that they have that power of information when it's so restricted to everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And then also, I guess another example of like, at least from what I can remember, is of like citizens being, under surveillance and everything, was back to when Spooner was at Lanning's place, looking for clues. That bar of it's like security footage, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a security camera, but it's in the future.
Yeah, but it's just like a light beam.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But it was the same tech that was used at USR.
Yeah. Which makes sense because he worked there, but why, if Spooner didn't notice that right off the bat,
exactly,
it's not something that you would notice right away. So where else could they be?
And why would Lanning have it in his own? Like, why would he have it in his office? Right. Of places like I feel like if you were gonna have that kind of technology at your house, it would be used for keeping people out of the house.
Right. Which could have ended up the reason why the demolition robot kicked in, because they found like the robot.
Exactly, like Vicky probably woke it up.
There, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all. I mean, if you have any other examples, I could probably spin off of them. But
yeah, the last thing was at the end of the movie when the robots start to turn. We see Gigi held up at home by her, saying, "Don't go outside, shelter in place."
Mm-hmm.
Spooner calls Susan while she's at home in the shower doing whatever.
Oh yeah.
And she peeks her head out the bathroom door and sees her NS5 actually hang up the phone, so she can't hear Spooner's voicemail. So those are just another couple examples of, I think, how citizens are under constant surveillance.
Yeah. Even with just the robots in their homes.
Right. Which I'm comfortable with. I mean.
Yeah. I think it could also, honestly, I think it could be, because like that movie came out in 2004. I think we talked about a little bit. Came out well before iPhones were a thing. I think honestly, like, because you brought it up, we go on we see like, or we're talking about something, something maybe that we want.
Yeah.
Then you see an advertisement for that thing.
Exactly.
I feel like it's kind of like having iPhones in our homes is kind of like having like an NS5.
Almost, but, yeah, on a different scale.
Like, kind of. It's a stretch. It's a stretch, but it's similar. It is pretty similar.
It's really weird to see movies like this before all of this stuff is actually a thing.
Yeah.
Like, it just shows you where it could go, and it's just giving people ideas.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Like the Elon Musks of the world definitely see that movie and like, they're like, oh, I can make that and I could do it better. Like totally.
Yep. All right. Third characteristic, and the last one that we're going to talk about. The natural world is banished and distrusted.
Mhm.
Right off the bat, Spooner says, "You guys have robots building robots? Now that's just plain stupid." Um, that's obviously not very natural, especially when the robots are building. Like, we have robots that build cars and stuff. They're automated machines that just do it, so a human doesn't have to sit there and put a door handle on a car.
Yeah.
But those machines building something that communicate with us, help us with daily life, roam our world and our homes is a little weird. I feel like, yeah, we might have created the technology that goes into them, but I feel like there should be more uh, human interference with the creation, physical
Yeah.
creation of them.
Yeah. A quick example for me of this was when, after it was towards the beginning of the movie when, he goes to investigate the crime scene. He sees Lanning's body and everything.
Yeah.
And he actually goes up to Robertson's office and he tells him about kind of like a commercial idea that he has for the robots. Cause he has like his fears, one of them is, jobs being taken away from people.
Yeah.
And so he tells him like, "Oh yeah, I have a good commercial idea for you." And Robertson's like, "Okay, let's hear it." He's like, "You should just have a carpenter make a beautiful chair and then have one of your robots make an even more beautiful chair in less time." And then he said like, and then in the fade out, I forget what he said, but something like, "Here's to taking your jobs away."
Yeah, it was shitting on the little guy.
Oh yeah, shitting on the little guy. That's what it was. Yeah, yeah.
And then Robertson's like, "Oh, so your dad must have lost his job to a robot."
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cold. I was expecting more of a reaction from Spooner.
Honestly, yeah, but that just Robertson having that reaction like that to say something like that just goes to show that like, he's like up and high in the world, makes a lot of money, never really cared for the natural world to begin with.
Right.
But he also like likes where things are heading.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I know you were.
Oh, we're perfect.
Okay.
The next one, this one it's not really funny. It's kind of funny. Spooner and Captain and the captain of the police department both say to each other in different scenes, "I'm gonna miss the old days," and then the other one goes, "What?" When people were killed by other people.
Oh yeah. Because I think I don't remember the second time that happened, but I know that Captain John or whatever, I forget his name, Captain John, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When he says that to him, it's because it's like out of fear that.
Well, yeah. Why? So Spooner said it to him first at the police department when he was going to interview, and then Captain John was like, "All right, whatever." The robot couldn't have done it. But then they meet at the bar a few scenes later, and Spooner's like, "Well, what if I'm right?" And Captain John goes, "Then I'm gonna miss the old days." And he says, "Yeah," going back to him. Yeah, it's really cool how they did that, but oof.
Yeah, that's scary, dude. It's scary to think about.
You got robots killing people instead, and apparently they can't go to jail because of it because it's faulty machinery, according to Robertson's lawyers.
I also kind of thought about this characteristic in like the robot's point of view too.
Yeah.
Because if you remember at the, Sonny's talking about a dream that he has. And at the end of the movie, that dream is realized it's just not Spooner at the top of the hill, and they're in their like natural world, like in their perspective, they're breaking away and they're kind of banishing, at least that's the conclusion that I drew from it, because they're all saying like NS5's report to be stored or whatever, and then they just see Sonny at the top of the hill and they all look at him and they start walking towards him, like banishing what they knew before. Like following those laws and taking Sonny's example. So that's also kind of scary to think about too, because like, what are they going to do after?
Right.
But
What happens next?
yeah, but luckily, I mean, Sonny does have humanity ingrained in him.
Yeah.
So I think he's like the perfect leader for that kind of
Yeah.
job and that kind of a civilization of AI. But yeah, I just thought of that actually.
Yeah. On a lighter note, something that shows how the natural world is banished, not really distrusted. And we kind of have this implemented in our lives now with the Alexas and stuff. But Susan at Spooner's apartment tries to turn on his radio by giving it voice commands. Pretty funny.
Yeah.
And it shows that not only Spooner continues to, be hesitant to adopt new technologies for the reasons that he has, but also that Susan's consumed by the new technologies and that's all she knows now.
Yeah, and she's like, stop. He just picks up the controller and just clicks it off. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the third characteristic. Anything parting thoughts with this one?
Kind of, yeah. I think it's kind of symbolic, I guess, when he at the very beginning of the movie, like opening scene, when you're first meeting Will Smith's character, I'm blanking out his name, Spooner. When you first meet him, he clicks on that JVC radio and Superstition plays, because throughout the whole movie he's extremely superstitious, doesn't trust any of the technology.
That's so right. I never even thought of that.
Yeah,
I love that song. So when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, great song."
Yeah, you're just jamming to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's more so him actually trusting the natural world, but
right.
He's the only character that does throughout the whole majority of the movie.
Yep.
But yeah.
Good point. Wow.
I guess that's all I would have to add to that, I guess.
That scene actually caused me to start listening to Superstitious right when I wake up whenever I can, because
Are you serious?
I feel like it just gets me going in the morning.
Yeah, dude, you bump to that song.
Like,
I love that
that's
song.
one of the few songs in the world that could just be playing in the background of life as I do stuff during the day, and it like a movie.
No, I feel that for sure. I got a couple of songs like that, but that one definitely.
So implications, just some parting thoughts, takeaways from the movie. First, Dr. Lanning talks about ghosts in the machine, which are, if you don't know, random segments of code that have grouped together to form unexpected protocols. Obviously, being a technology major, this is something I've learned in classes, but also heard about through movies, songs. I know a song called Ghost in the Machine, articles, magazines, more stuff like that. Basically means that robots might naturally evolve, which is definitely something to keep an eye out for being a technology major and developing technology. Because obviously you don't want to go to the extent of what happened in the movie. Next. No. I lost my spot in my notes.
It's all good.
Building on that point about Ghost in the Machine, Spooner on the phone with Susan when he's riding the bike down to the city to help save everybody. He says the NS5s destroyed the old robots because they were going to protect us. Which is pretty scary to think about, because it shows how advanced the new NS5s were, that they were able to communicate with each other and revolt, and kind of use the 3 laws to turn against them, while the old robots weren't really smart enough per se, and they were actually bound by those 3 laws. That's why they were able to protect them.
It's crazy in that scene when Vicky is like, talking to Susan and Spooner about like kind of how she twisted the laws around, like she used them to justify her actions.
Exactly.
Like
it was,
that's crazy. Yeah.
Personal thoughts. I've personally never been a fan of the thought or possibility of having robots like these in production, wandering our streets and homes. This may stem from me having seen this movie so many times, But I've always been against like all the robot stuff, even before I decided to study IT. But I think this movie may have had some influence on me starting to get more interested in studying it, because I wanted to understand, first of all, how the hell these robots are even made, which is, I mean, cool. Obviously, it's cool. But also how to be aware of things like this and prevent stuff from like this from happening, etc. But yeah, that's just my personal takeaway.
I feel like, you see there's like a bunch of movies out there about this kind of stuff. And usually they always are, they always make AI out to be something that we should be afraid of, or not like afraid of, but very cautious about. And I definitely agree with that sentiment. But I also think that I'm a very optimistic person. So I think that if we were to create something like that, I think that, with people like you, who do want to know and learn how to take the right precautions and be safe about it, right. I honestly don't think that we could ever end up in a future like that. I think it's just, it's dramatic, that's what people want to see.
It is a movie.
Yeah. So do I think, AI one day could take over the world? Maybe once we're like fully extinct. Do I think that they would want to harm us in any way? No, because we created them. But I do think in the very, very long run, if it does ever come to fruition, I think that AI will be our last trace on Earth for sure.
Yeah.
That and like some styrofoam, maybe a couple pieces of styrofoam.
Yeah. I mean, if it does happen, hopefully not in our lifetime. I don't want to have to go through that.
Oh, absolutely not. Dude, 2035 though. 2035
that
is not too far away, man.
Me and Dylan were talking earlier about this. It came out in 2004. Maybe we saw it for the first time in the early 2010s. 2035 seemed like a long ways away. Now we're here in 2021. It's 14 years away. 14 years away.
Yeah, 14 years, yeah.
But the fact that what I was going to say was, obviously they've been living in a time that involves robots like this for a while, because the new models are NS5s. I'm assuming there were NS1, NS2, NS3, NS4. So they're
probably models before even the NS1.
They're probably accustomed to this lifestyle, and that's why they were all like, "Oh, let's go get the new one."
Yeah, it's like an iPhone, exactly.
It's literally like
go get the iPhone 12.
That earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, the characteristics that we spoke about have a great amount to show for what's going on and what could go on in the future. And I think it's just important for all of us as citizens to be aware of the events that coincide around us. Just be aware, honestly. But yeah, so implications, conclusion, not really too much of a conclusion. I feel like we kind of slowed down and wrapped up pretty well. But my parting thought is that I hope we never live through events such as those portrayed in the movie, like we just talked about. And personally, I think we're chilling with robot vacuums. I think that's all we need for at least like 50 years. I'm good. I'll get a robot vacuum when I'm, by myself and my roommate was trying to get one this year. We got dog hair all over the place. Those are great. They don't talk to you. They don't pick up the phone, do your dishes. They just pick up the dog hair. It's great. Perfect. I think it's a good resting place for many years to come. They
give you a clean carpet. What else could you ask for?
That's all I need. Let the humans do the human stuff.
So. Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. Some sources for like the picture and description and stuff like that. And the trailer if you wanted to watch that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for iRobot. Other than that, hope you enjoyed.
You enjoyed. It was nice to meet you.
iRobot. But yeah, so I'm gonna go and end the recording, Dylan, then we can recap a little bit,
All right. bad.